Evening, and welcome to the City of Tempe's Board of Adjustment for Wednesday, November 15th, 2017 meeting. I'm Jan Sell, the chairman, and I'd like to introduce the city members that are here this evening. Steve Abramson at the far end there, and then Lee Jimenez and Sarah Adame. The first item for the business is the consideration of the meeting minutes from our last meeting on October 25th, 2017. Mr. Lyon?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the meeting minutes.
It's been moved by Mr. Lyon that the meeting minutes be approved. I hear a second.
I second that.
The second by David Nagel. All those in favor, just say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's been unanimously approved, the minutes. The third, there's two more items on the agenda, and one of the items will not be heard tonight, and that was a request for appeal on October 3rd, 2017 hearing officer's decision to approve a variance to reduce the required landscape buffer from the street sidewalk for a maneuvering lane from 20 feet to 11 feet, 8 inches for Quick Quack Car Wash, PL 170240, located at 5201 South McClintock Drive. The appellant is the Rose Law Group. Since it was decided yesterday, I believe, that the property wasn't properly posted, that this meeting, or this item will be moved to the December meeting on December 20th. Is there anyone here in the audience that is here for that particular case? Okay.
Just to see it get continued.
So well, if you have any comments, you can give written comments and give them to the city, and we'll consider them at the next meeting. And you're welcome to come back on December the 20th. Okay, thank you. The next case is for a request for an appeal of the September 19, 2017 hearing officer's decision to approve the request to abate public nuisance items at the Gay property, PL 170321/CE 170321, located at 625 West 3rd Street. The applicant is William Gay.
Good evening. My name is Lee Jimenez. I'm a senior planner with the Community Development Department in the Planning Division. The Gay property is located on Lot 16 of the Roosevelt Addition subdivision, which is situated west of South Roosevelt Street, west of South Roosevelt Street and south of West 3rd Street of the R16 single-family residential district. The property has been in violation since January 13, 2007 for trash, litter, and debris consisting of discarded appliances, furniture, metals, construction material, roof tile, shingles, tarps, and vehicle parts, among other items. On September 19, 2017, the hearing officer heard and approved the request by the city for a 180-day open abatement for the nuisance items. At the hearing, Mr. Gay explained that personal circumstances had prevented him from bringing the site into compliance. His neighbor to the west, Mike Myers, spoke during the public comment period and requested leniency on behalf of Mr. Gay. Mr. Gay formally appealed the hearing officer's decision on October 3rd, 2017. In Mr. Gay's appeal, he is requesting dismissal of the abatement to seek additional time to bring the property into compliance. Furthermore, Mr. Gay cites that the Code Compliance Division has not been clear regarding what can remain in his backyard, considering that it is screened from the street and alley. To date, staff has not received any public input. Code Enforcement Officer Andres Lado Reyes is on hand to answer any questions related to the abatement request and provide any update on Mr. Gay's progress towards compliance. Approval of this appeal will in effect overturn the hearing officer's decision to approve the abatement. A denial will uphold the hearing officer's decision. And I'll be available should you have any administrative related questions that I can answer.
Mr. Lyon?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Jimenez, I may have misheard you. Could you tell us again the date from which the property was found to be out of sync with standards?
January 13th, 2017.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Mr. Kazakis.
Thank you. This photo here, there were some photos in here that were dated, I think, August 9th or something, but this aerial that you're showing us, when was that dated? Is that a recent photo?
This is using the city's web ArcMap. It's likely maybe sometime within the last year or two. I don't have the exact date on this area. Usually it's stamped on there, so I'm not certain what the exact month and day of this aerial photograph is.
Would you say that represents the condition of the property today?
I can't answer that, but I do have photographs of what was provided in your packet, which is dated August 9th, 2017.
I have those. I was just wondering on this one. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, Mr. Jimenez? Thank you, Mr. Jimenez. Now we'll hear from the appellant, Mr. Gay. Mr. Gay, present.
Hello, I'm William Gay, and I reside at the address 625 West 3rd Street. And we're here because I filed an appeal, of course. The reason I filed an appeal is because, number one, I can't afford to pay the amount to have the property cleared by the city's abatement program. And number two, I have been working fairly diligently on bringing it into compliance. I realize it's been 6 or 8 months now since I first received my first notice that the property was out of compliance. The reason that it got out of compliance was I supplement my income by recycling metals, and 3 years ago the bottom kind of fell out of the market, and so I quit selling the metal because it wasn't bringing any money, but I continued to stockpile the metal, and it got to be quite a bit of stuff in the backyard. Since I've been in contact with the code compliance people, I have gone ahead and sold quite a bit of the metals. I'm not finished with it. I still have several loads that I need to take to the scrapyard, and I have also taken several loads to the transfer station and to the town dump, and I can only do 2 loads a month at the transfer station before it costs me money. And as a matter of fact, yesterday I was at the transfer station and I was 300 pounds over, and that cost $50, which that was a little unexpected. But I've also had some other financial troubles. Insofar as my ex-wife filed for a bankruptcy case last year, I think, is when she actually filed it. But it came down to, we've been divorced for 20 years. Her name is still on the title, and the trustee of the bankruptcy at first attempted to put a hold on the property. He was going to sell the property and then split the proceeds between my ex and I. And since I was living there, they lightened up a little bit. Anyway, we settled on $7,500, but that I had to pay towards her bankruptcy to be able to keep my property. And I struggle to make my utility payments. I struggle to make tax payments. My parents have been kind enough in the past to help me out with taxes. Essentially, what I would like to see happen here is not necessarily to overturn the decision of the hearing officer, but to extend the time frame in which I could bring the property up to compliance. I've lived there. I haven't lived there for 32 years, but I've owned the property for, I think, 32 years. And I've been there, I think, 9 years as we speak today. And that's a lot of accumulation in 9 years, and it takes a little bit longer than the time frame that the city has been allowing me to take care of it, because there's, as you can see by the one aerial photo, there's quite a bit of stuff back there. But I'm more than willing to bring the property into compliance. I just need some more time. And that's about what I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Gabe. Since you were cited in January, how much of the material that was in the backyard has been removed? What kind of percentage would you say you've removed so far?
Probably 60 to 70%.
How much more time would you need to remove the rest of the material?
Maybe 2 months.
Excuse me?
Maybe about 2 months.
2 months? Mr. Pizakis?
Have you talked to the city about a time period by which, or a date certain by which you could get, I'm going to say substantially in compliance, but remove the bulk of the material?
Yes, I have, and they indicated that I'd already had enough time since it's been out of compliance since January.
Did they offer anything to you in terms of a date certain that, you know, if you can accomplish a certain amount of cleanup, a certain amount of abatement, in a certain amount of time, then maybe they can work with you? Did you?
They did. Right from the start, they gave me quite a bit of time. I mean, from month to month, and as long as I was making progress, they were going to be okay with it. But apparently my progress wasn't enough.
A question, maybe one follow-up question, I guess, if I can ask the city. Is that appropriate? They can.
We'll wait until we finish asking questions of the
Okay,
appellant,
all
and
right.
we'll go from there. Okay. Mr. Frazee?
Mr. Gay, question, sir, in regards to the statement about not being clear about what needs to stay or what can stay and what needs to be removed. Has there been any further clarification to you of, does the whole yard need to be cleaned out, or is there a clarification of what can stay?
Well, the only thing that I've really been told about that is that if the abatement happens, anything that I want to keep needs to be out of there, and which to me, that tells me that they're going to come in and just clear the whole property. Now, there's a couple of structures on the property, a couple of sheds, and some big toolboxes that are kind of attached to the shed. And it's a big, giant electrical panel that's hollowed out. It locks up, and I put my tools in it. And I don't know if they're meaning to take the shed or exactly what, and it's never really been clarified. I have a lot of tools and a lot of equipment back there that I haven't had anywhere else to put it. I mean, it's my backyard. You can't see the backyard from the alley unless you get out and stand up in the back of your truck. Can't see the backyard from the front, so everything's concealed. You can see it from the air, but I don't know who has been registering these complaints, because my neighbors on both sides, they don't have a problem with the recycling that I've been doing or anything else. I mean, everybody seems to be friendly and compatible with it.
Mr. Collins?
Mr. Gay, thank you again for coming down and giving us some clarification on some of the questions. One of the options this board has, as I understand, is to approve your appeal with conditions. If we were to approve your appeal with conditions to give you an additional 3 months to take care of your property, you feel that you understand what you need to remove and you feel you can remove those within 3 months?
Yeah, I could remove even anything, and I'm sure as of this meeting now, maybe we'll have some better clarification. I have looked through the code compliances and the city codes, and there's really nothing that I could find that says what you're allowed to have in the backyard and what you're not.
I guess my concern is that if we approve to give you an extension, that it's based on you understanding what you need to remove, and you're saying that you do understand what you do need to remove if you're given the extension?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. I guess right now, if there's any, is there any questions of the city staff at this point? Mr. Pazakis?
Yes. Mr. Gay indicated that he thought he was 60% abated. And he, over the period of time, he's removed a lot of material. And I guess, is that right in your mind? I mean, it's been going on for a year, so sounds like there's been some progress or some progression of abatement.
There has been some progress. It's been over 10 months since the first notice was mailed out. I did take pictures this morning, and I reviewed the case with the administrator, and we came to the conclusion that the property is still in violation. So, face down.
Would you estimate how much of the material's been removed? Is it 60% or less than 60%?
I would probably estimate maybe 50%.
Okay.
At one point, you cannot walk through the backyard in the initial inspection.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Mr. Lyons?
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like a little clarification on the 180-day open abatement period. I'm not sure who exactly I should address this question to, but I'm curious if we can hear what precisely is supposed to happen during that 180-day period. Is that the time during which the city will abate the property, or during which the owner will abate the property? Would I answer that? Sure. The city would abate the property. It will stay open for 180 days in the event that the owner is in violation again. Then the city has the authority to go in there and clean it up again in those 180 days. I see. As many times as we need to bring the property into compliance. I see. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Pazakis.
If the decision was that you're going to abate, would you start that tomorrow? Hypothetically, I mean, would that start immediately? Or would that be something that you'd say, well, you know, time-wise, procedurally, whatever, you know, it's going to start in 2 months or 3
We'll
months?
start immediately.
It would start immediately, okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
It's not so much a question as a statement. I have a concern, and I asked this question in our working session earlier, if the city had any kind of programs that would help abate the property for those in financial need without charging them back, and I was told there are no programs. That's part of my concern here, is that there's been a financial hardship raised, or a statement from the homeowner, and we have no options within the city to help them with the issue of the financial hardship to have their property abated. We basically are saying we're going to abate their property if it's approved, and we're going to put a lien on their property. I have some concerns with that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Bazak.
For the homeowner, you mentioned you're in the recycle business. I understand that a little bit, by the way. My grandfather did that for a living. But how much of this this material in your backyard is recyclable? I mean, can you actually take this off to a? How much can you take off to the metal recyclers, or how much you got to go to the dump?
Mr. Williams, could you take the podium to answer? Thank you.
The remaining items that are left on the property, probably 75 to 80% is recyclable. And that's how most of it got there to begin with, is because I collected it to recycle. But like I said, the bottom fell out of the market, and I didn't cash them in like I normally would.
But understanding that this abatement issue is before you, I mean, in 2 months, could you take 75% of that material off the recyclers and
Oh, yeah.
realize whatever financial gains there are to realize? And I mean, is that plausible? Is that possible for you to physically do that?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. There's no other questions. Mr. Lyon.
Thank you, Chairman. I have one more question for city staff. There's been some discussion about if we were to approve the appeal with the condition that the owner abate the property themselves in certain time frame. Can we get clarification on how that would work if that's something we undertake? Is that a remedy we have?
Yes, Mr. Lyon, that is. We could, if there was a condition on the approval of the appeal that would indicate 2 months, as was discussed before, there could be a condition, an additional condition placed on this, that after 2 months, if it's, there'll be an inspection, and should the property not be cleaned up, then it could go to immediate abatement. That could be a condition that you write into it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. There's no other questions. I've got 2 people from the audience who would like to speak. Margaret Strength, would you please step forward? State your name and address, please.
Okay. My name's Margaret Strength. My address is 621 West 3rd Street. I live directly to the east of Ken's property. I've owned my home for over 20 years there. And I just want to speak on Ken's behalf that he's a good neighbor. He's always been a good neighbor. He is working on cleaning out the property. He's making progress. I would like to see the city allow him to continue what he's doing and not fine him. I like our neighborhood. It's always been, a unique neighborhood, no HOAs, none of this kind of stuff. And I just feel like the city's kind of reaching too far on this one. I don't understand it. There's other properties around that have issues as well, and maybe there's something going on with them too. I don't know, but it just seems like this is going too far. And like I said, I'd like to see him give him more time. I would say even more than 2 months. I would think at least 90 days would be more adequate. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I have Randolph Strength.
All right, I'm Randolph Strength, obviously Margaret, well, not obviously, but she's my wife, and we live next door as she stated. Basically, I echo what my wife just said. I would add that, you know, they're working on it all the time, they're making progress, and I feel like if the city can have 180 days to do it, I mean, and with all the resources of the city, it just seems unfair that, you know, Ken, we call him Ken, can't have an additional 60 to 90 days, especially given your concern. There's no programs to help him and to get some other help to do that. So he's doing the best he can on his own. And been a good neighbor, always there, help anytime, help me in the middle of the night with things. You know, somebody crashed in my wall and he was there to help me take care of that. So he's a good guy, and I think he deserves a little bit of a break on that. Okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Well, it's been 10 months now since the citation was issued, and it appears that he's making progress towards cleaning up his yard, and I would think that it would be reasonable to approve this with conditions, 90 days or end of January, something like that. That's what, yes, Mr. Brazakas.
I actually agree with you. I think that you know, this is a case where I can understand if he keeps working at it, if the neighbors feel he's working at it. I think 90 days would be, but I do think that there needs to be a little bit of teeth at the end of 90 days. If you know, if it doesn't get abated, or at least significantly abated, that you know, the abatement takes place. That's what I would think would be appropriate, personally.
I would think maybe if the city staff could maybe go over and take a look at it towards, you know, maybe after 60 days and tell him what else he needs to take out. Yes, Mr. Strain.
That's actually what I was going to offer, and I don't.
Would you please step up, please, to the podium?
And anyway, I was just going to maybe suggest that if there could be some sort of time period in there where it's just not pulled out from under him all of a sudden, that there's a little bit of a warning on that. And then, do you feel like you have clarification for what can stay? I don't feel like in reading all, you know, some of the documents and stuff that I understand that. So maybe there could be some kind of formal clarification of what needs to go or not. So anyway, that's all.
Is that something that the staff could monitor and kind of give him an idea of?
Yes, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit down with the administrator, go over it, pictures, make sure that everything gets included what needs to be removed.
Okay.
In detail. That way he can know.
Mr. Collins?
I think it's a great idea. I think that's, appreciate that coming from looking to help the citizen, how they can meet the needs that's required of the code. So thank you for offering to do that.
Mr. Frazee?
A question also then for staff. When you look at the financial aspect of the abatement, if within a 90-day period the decision is made to abate, this dollar amount that's referenced would be adjusted based on what materials might still be there then, correct? So this total
correct.
dollar amount theoretically would go down.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Yeah, we can discuss. Yes, Mr. Lyon.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to say that I just want to maybe split hairs for a moment, that I don't know that I feel that the appellant is having the rug pulled out from under them, and this is not an all of a sudden thing. There have been a number of notices, and this process has been ongoing for some time. And I would feel a little more encouraged if there was more progress on the property during that period. That being said, I could still support a condition that allowed 90 days to abate the property. I do believe that the appellant is making a real effort to clean things up, and that satisfies me.
Yes, Mr. Coffer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Me reading between the lines here with this, he is supplementing his income, recycling, scrapping metal, that sort of thing. I don't see this problem stopping unless he stops that business. He stops doing that. Before I make any motion to give another 90 days or whatever, I'd like to find out if the intent is to discontinue that, because like the recidivism that was mentioned in one of the staff reports is probably going to happen again if it continues. I just want to find out what the homeowner's intent is with that portion of the business. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other?
I have a statement. I don't know if it's within our purview to ask the appellant to tell us how he's going to use this property in the future. That's not the case that we have right now. I think that's one we need to make our decision on. And I would feel uncomfortable telling him what he can and cannot do with his property in the future. It doesn't fall under our purview.
Mr. Coffer?
To me, it's a direct correlation. We have an issue where staff has discovered or tells us that there's a public nuisance there. So to me, it goes hand in hand. I just don't want to see it come back up in 6 months. So I guess what I'm suggesting, I'm not telling him what to do with his property. I'm just suggesting a way for hopefully there's a longer term solution, or we'll be right back here in another year. Just a thought. Thank you.
Mr. Nigel?
Yes, I have a question of the staff. There is an ordinance that prohibits operating a business within a residence. Is that correct?
That's correct. In this case, the complaint was just for the litter and debris in the backyard, nothing about a business.
And is that something that your group enforces as well?
Yes.
Mr. Gay, would you please step up and maybe you can address some of the issues and concerns of some of the board members?
Have a question of me? I mean,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Mr. Gay, thank you for your time tonight. I do appreciate the appeal. What does your future look like with all of the stuff that is at issue in your backyard? If this board gives you an additional 90 days to clean it out, is it not going to be an issue in the future? Or is it going to be kind of a up and downhill thing where you have more things in your backyard in 6 months because of the scrap metal prices? Or can you shed any light on that for me, please?
I don't see the prices going up anytime real soon, and the owners of the scrap yards I've talked to, they don't see it going gangbusters like it was 4 or 5 years ago. Quite frankly, I'm a little bit tired of doing the scrap business. Number one, it only pays about 50 cents an hour. It's very time consuming, but it's something that I was able to do, and just to supplement my income, like I said. It's I would like nothing more than to be done with the scrap business. You know, it's something that I've had to fall back on in the past just to pay bills. And as a bright note, I guess, I'm a third-generation plumber. My granddad had a business at 117 6th Street where the high-rise is now. His plumbing business is right where the lobby is now, the high-rise. And I went to work for him at the tender age of 5 and 6 years old, tending his lead pots for him. So I've been in the business for quite some time, and I have recently landed a new job with another outfit, and we'll be working on some apartments as soon as the city approves some portion of the plan. I guess is holding up the project, but that's on 9th Street in Wilson here, so it'll be very convenient. I could probably walk to work if I had to, but that should take care of the scrap business, as we call it.
Thank you, Mr. Gay. Appreciate it. No more discussion. We'll go ahead and call for the question.
I have just a question. I'm comfortable with extending another 3 months. However, at the end of that 3 months, would be interested in if a motion were to then automatically give staff authority to move through and abate it, rather than, I don't understand the process and whether it would come back to us again or not.
It's my understanding that if we granted, if we approved with conditions, and the condition was 90 days to finish the cleanup, if he didn't fit, whatever's not finished within 90 days, the staff would then start immediate cleanup. Is that correct?
That would still be an abatement, and this is an appeal of an abatement. So after 90 days, I'm not an attorney, but I would feel that there would have to be a new abatement started at that point.
We would begin the abatement at 90 days, that's correct.
I didn't hear it. Sorry.
So if a condition were placed on the approval that allowed Mr. Gay 90 days to clean up his property, at the end of that 90 days, yes, the city would move forward and conduct the abatement at that time.
Thank you.
While you're here, I have a question. So it was asked earlier, and I think you answered this. If you do move forward, then you would be adjusting the cost of the abatement based upon what he has successfully removed.
That is correct.
Thank you.
That is correct.
Mr. Pizzato?
Just one quick question. When would you start the clock on the 90 days? Immediately?
We would start it today. That's
Okay,
correct.
got it.
Yeah.
Okay, since there's no more discussion or questions, thank you. I call for the question. Mr. Lyon.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the appeal with the condition that the appellant has 90 days to abate the property himself, after which time a city period of 180-day abatement commences if the property has not been abated.
So it's my understanding that after the 90 days, the city would commence the abatement, correct? Is that what your motion?
If the appellant hasn't cleaned up the yard, yes.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
It was moved by Mr. Lyon and second by Mr. Confer that the appeal be approved with conditions, and that condition is a 90-day period for which the appellant could have to clean up the yard, at which time, after 90 days, if it's not cleaned, then the city would move forward with the abatement. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, the motion is approved unanimously. There's no other business. I will call this meeting at an end and we'll adjourn. A motion to adjourn? Mr. Lyon?
Mr. Chair, I move that we adjourn.
A
second that.
Moved by Mr. Lyon, second by Mr. Fraze. We adjourn. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.